just start with the presentation on customer development and interviews regarding customer development. So this is a video which enhances basically our content regarding lean startup cycle that you already had in the I think the third phase, the third assignment part. So just to recapture what we already briefly discussed. The lean startup cycle is a cycle that is a procedure model that originates in IT-based startup world, which means it heavily goes to notions on prototypical and agile development. They take notions like learn early, learn often, which is highly connected to notions from software development like release early, release often. Well, as you learned, the Lean Startup Circle consists of 3 phases, which basically are ideas build, measure, and learn, and they create artifacts like product, data, and ideas. And we go throughout these phases iteratively. And as we do this, our startup grows. I mean, hopefully grows. And so we have these. We came up to the notion that we have 4 different basic phases of a startup. We start with customer discovery. Customer discovery is a phase where we try to find such as the product market fit, which means we try to find out whether we have a relevant problem and we found a valid solution for this problem. So as soon as we found this, we have an idea of what kind of market there is, what kind of product or service we have for this kind of market, and then we can build on this basic assumptions that we maybe already validated to a certain amount to find a replicable revenue and especially therefore also a business model. So we want to create a situation where we can replicate our solution and replicate our success. And as soon as we are able to have this, as soon as we found this replicable revenue model, we are able to strive from this initial search phase of a startup into an execution phase, which comes with customer creation. So can we create and raise end user demand, for instance? So we know our customers, we have an idea of our solution regarding these customers, we know how to make revenues through giving products and services, and then we try to leverage on this. And as soon as we can do that, we should think about transposing our organization, which is rather a startup, so consists of a few people who are working intuitively with each other, into a scalable business, which means how can you grow a company from 5 people to 500? As you may think of intuitively, this may lead to dozens of different issues and problems that you may want to address. So today we are mainly focusing on this initial phase, customer discovery, and a little bit customer validation. As we think that this is, especially for this course, but also for many other courses, and for you, as soon as you go out there and want to maybe start your own business someday, this is going to be very, very important for you. So we think today about 2 types of interviews that you typically have with your customers or potential customers. And what I would like to introduce you is the first interview type, which is the problem interview. And I give you for both of these interview types, which is on the one hand problem interview and on the other hand the solution interview, I want to give you for both types some scripts from which based on notions from Maurya himself being some of the, let's not say inventors, but researchers and practitioners working heavily on the development of the lean startup cycle. He brought into the discussion this kind of customer development interviews and how to proceed these interviews. So he came up with 2 scripts which I find very, very helpful, and I'd like to introduce these scripts to you as I find them very, very interesting for your course now, and especially for the for your future if you want to create your own ideas someday. So first of all, we start with the problem interview. So the problem interview refers to, well, let's say the problem. I mean, the problem stands at the center of this interview, so we want to try to find out whether assumptions that we have regarding our business model, our service, our value offer, so value proposition, every assumption that we have that is connected to the problem that we address, and we refer here very heavily on the value proposition, which tries to tackle some problem of customers. So we want to find out whether these assumptions are right or wrong. And as you remember, maybe the Lean Startup Cycle is all about falsification of assumptions or verifications of assumptions. So we all have dozens of assumptions about our business model. We think, well, my product is best served for mothers between 25 and 35 who are also running some businesses at a site, or we may think of, well, I think my service serves best for young students, for instance. So this is something that you may want to verify for your business, whether this is the target group and how to address this target group. So today we start with a problem interview. So first of all, if you the question would be, who are you going to interview? And who do you want to find out? Who do you want to find in the market? Well, first of all, you do not want to find them for your business. You do not want to find the regular user, the regular customer by itself. You want to find people who are very likely to have the problem that you want to face, and you want to find those people that are feeling this problem as being a pain in such an intensity that they may even want to find solutions on themselves. So people that are very eager to help you make this problem solved. We call them early adopters. Let's stick with this term for now. So we want to find these early adopters, and as soon as you may have some idea of who of these early adopters may be, and you want to approach them and want to talk to them, and as soon as you start talking to these people, you want to do it in a systematic way, and this is what we're doing here with a problem interview script. So we start with setting the stage. As you see here, we have these. Can you see my mouse? Yeah, it's very good. As you may see here, there's this illustration of a stage, and you can think of it just like that. You setting the stage by introducing yourself, introducing what you're doing, and very, very briefly, as mentioned here, 2 minutes at most, say what are you up to, what is your idea of the conversation. I wouldn't go into the details of your solution, as you do not want to frame them up front too much. Nevertheless, it is also very, very helpful. We found it very helpful if you're a student that you may want to tell them those people just that you're a student group and you wanna find out, you have these student tasks, and you wanna find something about some problem domain, and you want to interview some people. And most people are very, very helpful when it comes to students, which is, especially for the problem interview, a very good starting point. As soon as you set the stage, you want to collect some demographic data about the people that you ask. So you want to maybe find out how old are these people, are they women or men, are there some attributes that refer to, let me just check whether you have any questions throughout. Okay, so you may want to find out maybe some attributes that they have, which you think that are relevant for your product, service, and business model in the end. So maybe you want to create some business which goes to where you want to sell something for children. Then it would be relevant to find out whether the people that you ask are parents or not, or whether they know people with children or not. So then you, as soon as you collected these demographics of these people that you ask, that you interview, you can afterwards select groups from these people and find out whether there are some correlations of attributes, whether there are some correlations between the arguments that they bring or the problems that they typically face. So this typically goes very fast as well. So then we come to setting the domain for what is this talk really about. So it is a good idea to setting the problem context. So what is the problem domain that you want to talk about? So maybe if you're creating a mobility service, for instance, it would be a good idea to tell a story about yourself as you're coming into a new city and you do not know how to come from the main central station to the university, as you're not living in the city and you came there the first time. So it would be a good idea to say, well, how do I come from here to there, and I want to make it very, very inexpensive. So here I stay, this is my problem. And as soon as you've done that, you told this hopefully in a personal and, let's say, emotional story way, anecdote, or it's like telling a short story. You framed the whole conversation on this problem. And then what we want to do is we want to create a picture of this problem in the mind of our interviewee, and as soon as we created this picture, this interview can think about situations that are similar or which are complementary to this problem domain. So maybe your interviewer is not a student who visited this city, but maybe your interviewee is some employee who had to go to a conference to another city and thought, well, I didn't had to go to the university, but I had to visit some other office or maybe some office or factory or something like that, and then they relate to your story in their specific in front of their specific experience. So then you have the whole problem setting set, and now we want to relate to what is it that your interviewee is thinking about it. This is the most relevant and interesting phase of the whole interview. It starts with problem ranking. You want to explore what type of let's say part of these problems are most relevant for this pertaining person. Let's go back to this short example of the student visiting another city, going to the university. Well, what's the main problem? Is it going from the main central station to the university inexpensively? Is it how get I there very quickly? Is it rather how do I find the university? So there are different angles on which you can view on this problem, and you want to find out what is the angle that is most relevant for this pertaining interviewee. So let's say, for instance, you ask 20 people about this very specific situation, and 15 of these say, well, I think the most important thing is that it's cheap, that I can go from the central station to the university very, very cheaply. And then there are these 5 guys that say, well, I do not mind the price, but I have to get there as quick as possible. And these 5 guys are maybe people that have the budget to really pay you in that way. So you may think of, well, this is an interesting subgroup of people I asked, which also may have money, which is also always a good thing, and they are willing to spend some money, which gives you some kind of intuitive which gives you some kind of intuition on how relevant this problem is for them. It's always a good thing if people are intuitively willing to pay money for something, because then it's typically very important for them.
So we've done that. Now we rank these different types of problems and part of these problems, and now we want to explore this problem domain a little bit further. We want to explore the customer's worldview regarding each of these problems. So we go through these problems or parts of the problem a little bit more explicitly. So we want to ask very open questions. We go into directions that the interviewee wants to go. So we maybe ask for the current solutions that the user has used in order to solve these problems. And as I mentioned in before this presentation, we want to find early adopters. So we want to find people that are very heavily think about this problem, that are willing to invest into solving this problem. So if you find someone who already found a solution, or maybe created the solution all by themselves, or all by him or herself, then that's a very good sign. That's also a very good sign, because if people create their own solutions, this is typically very which typically comes at a certain costs. And these costs could be translated into a price for you someday. So this is the very important part. You now explore these different problems, and you want to entangle the causality within these problems. So what is it that makes them want to go there as cheap as possible, or that leads them to go there as quick as possible? Because this may later on lead you to some point on which you can build on to create other parts of your business model. For instance, channels, customer relationship, etc. So then we come to the third. As soon as you've done that, you come to the third part, and this is very important. As oftentimes this can get lost. It is important, as you until this moment you talk to a person about a problem, let's say maybe 20 or 30 minutes. So if this people already invest 30 minutes in talking to you, it is a good idea to not just get them lost. I would recommend, and also Maurya, I mean, he was the guy who came up with this interview script initially. They recommend, let's wrap it all up. It is a good idea to first of all wrap up very briefly, what is your solution to the problem domain. So you can tell, maybe it's a good thing to find some kind of catchphrase which explains a little bit of how are you going to address this problem in the future. And you're always referring to the future, as we are now only talking about the problem. So maybe you can say, well, I have a service, and this service is like the Amazon for car dealers. So, or maybe with regards to the example that I just gave, maybe we are going to offer the Uber for bicycles, or something like that, or tricycles, or whatever. You may think of it, but it's one sentence and gives some intuitive notion of, okay, this is still the kind of service or product that they are going to create, and now we can build on exactly this image that we just created in their mind of our future solution, and we can ask them, well, would you help us in future interviews? For instance, as soon as we are ready with our product, would you like to test it? And if so, then we can add them maybe to our newsletter, or subscribe them to some kind of other service where we can build up a sustainable relationship with this potential customer. And then this is also very important. You should ask for whether these people know someone who has the same issues, and best of all, not only know someone, but maybe just also introduce you to this person. So, do you know someone who has who's always going to different cities and who want to go to different places and don't know how they come from the main central station to universities or businesses or something? And if so, can you introduce me to this person? Can you send an email and to him or her and refer to me so that I can get in talk with this, because we are very, very interested in meeting other people. So that in this way, this person not only helps you to validate or falsify your assumptions regarding your problem, it also this person also helps you in reaching out for further potential customers. And finally, and this is very, very important, document your results directly after the interviews. So so that you do not have to memorize it over a long period, but just intuitively, just quickly right afterwards. So because then you remember most of it, and not only the explicitly noted things, but also implicitly, so like gesture and something like that. Okay, so this is the problem interview. This is very early. This is where we want to find out, well, do we have a problem that is good or not? It is always a good idea. I mean, Ash Maurya, if you read through his book, he refers to 30 or 40 people that you regularly have to interview. I find it important that if you follow your interviews through different customers, there is there will be some event in time where you find that, well, this interviewee is only saying the same things that the other interviewers already said. It is a good thing that this happens recurrently, because it gives you an idea of how relevant your problem domain is, but it doesn't really help you in learning more about your customers. So if this is going to happen, if you have repeatedly saying people the same things, you may want to change your interview structure or your questions, or you should settle down and think about aggregating the knowledge that you just acquired. Maybe you can also already derive some validation regarding your value proposition assumptions from this data. And then we can go to the next level. We come to the solution interview. Well, obviously this video goes longer now than I originally intended it, so, but you can rewind and forward it to at any point in time you want. So this is the solution interview. It is in some sense similar to the problem interview, especially at the beginning, where we create this stage once again, we collect some demographics. So this is very much the same. So we have this demographic data as I showed, so we still know, well, these people are parents of younger age, older age, non-parents, etc., or users of cars, of bicycles, of whatever. And you also created your story to frame the mind on the problem domain. But now we are not zooming into different problems, but now we assume that you know these different problems that can happen in these problem domain. So you know, okay, most people I think of, well, they want to go there inexpensively as possible. They do not want to pay for an app. They are willing to pay for the ride, but not for the app. So these are some things. Maybe you already know, well, most people that I refer to want to go by bicycle and not by car because they are healthy and so on. So you already entangled your problem domain into sub-problems for your relevant target group, which you should now dive deeper into it. And I assume that you already created some kind of artifact which solves these different problems. Artifact means these minimum viable solutions or minimum viable products that you are already familiar with from this other video about MVPs. So we think about, well, now you have your MVP, and now you show your MVP to these customers regarding these main problem domain and also regarding each and every of these smaller problems. And this is going to happen in the next phase. So we come now to the demo phase. The the demo phase is just as it is as intuitive as you may think. It is to demonstrate your artifact to this pertaining customer. You should observe the customer or potential customer in using your artifact. So, are they using it in the same way that you think of that they do? Are they? You should make them speak aloud and think aloud throughout using them, so that you can easily figure out whether some things go differently than you imagined them to be. So this is basically to figure out whether your solution is the right answer to the big question. Big question meaning here the problem. So are you solving the problem? This is some basic assumptions that you may have. And as soon as we've done that, and you see here that this is the biggest part in the whole process, and this may be the most important part, but there's also the other part, and I find it very interesting that Maurya already. So as you see here, one demo for each problem. Maurya is already recommending this, and this seems to work quite good, and I find this very interesting. He says, well, we should already test the pricing very early, because then we find out whether this problem is relevant enough to work on. Because if you cannot make money out of it, this is going to be a little bit difficult. So we should ask them we should not ask them about the problem, but rather tell them our price. So this does not necessarily mean that you're selling a product by price. So here is your TV, and it costs 1,500 euros or something, or 500 euros, but rather you thought of a price model, maybe a freemium model, maybe you thought about a subscription model, or maybe you've thought of any other kind of revenue model, and now you want to use this interview also to validate this revenue model. So, and you're not doing this, and are you willing to pay 500 euro for this TV, or is it rather 400? Because if you go into this direction, then people are mostly not really seeing the value of your product. But you rather see yourself as standing on the market, and you have a very valuable product that really solves a very relevant problem domain for this pertaining person. And so, and this comes at a price, and this price has to be understood as being fair, a fair price for this person. If this person does not really see this price as being fair, there is something going on that you want to find out. And there is some way to figure out whether this price is fair, and this is called anchoring. Anchoring is something that you may think of, well, what is your current solution to the problem? How do you currently get from A to B if you visit a new city? And this person may say, well, typically I go by cab. I just take the taxi and everything is okay. So how much are you regularly willing to pay for this taxi? Well, I typically just go out out there, and I just take the next taxi which is there. And if I go to, I don't know, London or something, I have to pay 40 pounds at best. Depends on where you go. So yeah, okay, then this 40 pounds at this point in time becomes an anchor. An anchor for your price. So as soon as one other price is mentioned throughout the discussion or your interview, this price is an anchor. So if you're now saying, well, our price is 30 pounds and not 40 pounds, then this is a very good starting point for your pricing conversation. You may also want to go, you can also aim higher. You can say, well, we're not 40 pounds but 45 pounds, but we see it as being fair, as, well, look at what we're offering. We're offering whatever, champagne or something like that. You can go not only by, we have a cabrio or whatever. So you can argue that your price is fair, and find out, well, this is our price. We're not giving you some. You're not getting some payment off. We're not adding 10% for you because you're such a nice person. This is the price. And the same goes for every other product, like mentioned here. Maybe typical television, $1,000, you're selling for $800, and suddenly $800 sounds pretty fine. There's a good thing if you do not have a direct substitute or a direct competitive product already in the market, you may also want to think of how much does it typically cost to solve this issue. So if someone is solving this pertaining problem all on their own, you can think of, well, how much time are you typically spending on this? Well, let's say 8 hours. Okay, 8 hours a weekend you're spending, or let's refer back to this problem going from A to B. Well, okay, you're going out there, you're comparing different, and you have to understand the subway system. You have to compare how long does it take to go by subway rather than by taxi or by bicycle or something like that. And this takes some time, and this time is precious. And maybe you can also add a price tag at the time. For instance, how much is this person typically? How much does he earn per hour, for instance? And and suddenly you come into a situation where you think about, okay, what is your what do you lose if you're solving it on your own? And then you can compare this to your price. And this may this may be a good starting point for you to test your price. And if someone is still saying, well, I'm not going to willing to pay for this, then this is also pretty interesting to know early on, especially before you created your fully fledged product or service. And as we've done before in the problem interview, we're going to wrap it up all along at the end of the interview, and we're asking for further customer relationship. Are you willing to test our final prototype? And you can even add to this and say, well, do you want to be one? Maybe you not only want to test our final product, but do you want to be one of our first customers? Because if you want to go to sign now, we are willing to give you 5% off. Or if you're adding your name now, you're getting this and that. And maybe you already go out of this with a future contract. And then you can always use this interview for further multiplication of your interviewee base. For instance, you can ask, can you introduce us to someone who has the same issues, and just like I said before, ask them to introduce you personally or by email, so that people are more willingly eager to answer your emails, answer your calls, etc. And just as the problem stated before, it's a problem interview. You have to document your results as soon as you finished your interview and you said farewell, because once again, maybe you forget some relevant points. Maybe you forget something about the gesture or the mimic or something like that. So also document your results. So as you can see, we have two different kind of interviews which are important in two different episodes in time. While we've heavily used the problem interview at the beginning, as we search for product market fit, we come into situations where the solution interviews becomes more relevant, which is especially at the end of this first customer discovery state, and especially relevant for customer validation. So, like I said, you can even test your revenue model by using the solution interviews. So this is all that I wanted to give you here. There's some additional reading here, so you can go and read some stuff from Steve Blank. You find a lot of this also online. He has several blogs which in which many of the stuff is also, and the same goes for Ash Maurya. Many of the stuff is described and very heavily illustrated by using a ton of different examples. So I really recommend you to look it up online. And now I would like to open up the this whole video conversation. Maybe you have some questions, so let me just check whether there are still some people. Okay, 9 viewers, so let's just check whether there is someone who has a question or if you would like to ask someone. Okay, so there is nothing in the activity stream on the Net Economy Network that I see. There's also nothing in the chat besides my colleague. Okay, I wait a second. I don't know if you are already there, whether you looked it up, whether you viewed the video synchronously or asynchronously. So this video was the first first test for myself, because I never used this type of this streaming software for YouTube Live yet. And this is very nice as soon as you get familiar with all of it. No questions? Okay, I'm nevertheless going to upload this video on YouTube, so you can always watch it once again if you're interested in certain parts of it. So what I would recommend you is to follow the structure of the problem interview now for the Net Economy class. This is also good because you have the perfect start now. So if as soon as we're finished, you finish the voting process, you have your overall main problem domain. You have an initial idea of what kind of problems are you going to solve. You have an initial idea of your solution. So yeah, so okay, first question, Sabine Anderson, could you please upload the additional reading in Net Economy platform? I'm going to present the links there. Yeah, I'm going to do that. So you have the main problem domain now where you all created some videos, and some very cool videos, I must say, although I do not want to interfere with later voting processes, so I'm not going in there now and saying which business models I like best. But there are very, very cool videos and very, very cool ideas. If you use these ideas, you have an idea of your main problem domain, you can now start exactly these problem interviews, and they are going to make your solution even better. And the best thing would be, and this is what I like personally best, if I see pitches and I see people or discuss with people who are creating their businesses, it's always a good idea if you mentioned, and if you just tell it in a sub-sentence, let's say, that all your assumptions are based on real customer data, that you really asked people, that you went out there, you left your building, and you asked some people. And I heavily recommend this for you doing this in this class. And this typically means ask people that you want to sell to, ask people that you want to partner with, especially these local shops that you're addressing to. So this would be a good idea. Let's see whether there are other questions in the activity stream or in the chat. Maybe it's too early in Europe and too late in Jakarta. Okay. So thanks, Sabina, for this question. So are there any other questions? Okay, if that's not the case, as I see, we already lost some viewers. Okay, if there are no other questions, I mean, you can ask them on any time on the Net Economy Network. And you can raise them to me and all the other instructors. So thank you once again for following this video, for listening to me for over 40 minutes now. Thanks once again for those who've done that today in the morning, but also to those of you watching this later in the evening or in the afternoon. So we see each other in our next live meeting, at least there. So hope you have a nice day, and we then we see each other then. Bye bye.